Yeah. Check the charts. It's a bloody scene. Hanks and Pulse chain. You know exactly what I mean. From the peak we plummeted, down 99%. The Bears took control, the funds were all spent. Sacrificed our pulse, we believed in the dream. Now we're holding these bags of soap. It would seem the SEC came knocking. Tried to build a case, said we were a scam. Tried to put us down, richer than the court, fighting for the crown. But we're still strong, yeah. We ain't going away. Through the darkest night, we wait for the day. The Bears are growling, but we hold the line. Pulse chain, pulse X, destined to shine. The fools are sleeping, but they'll soon awake. For the communities are waiting, for the fortune they will make. Yeah. Buddha has been spreading, fear's been in the air. Whales were exited, leaving us in despair. Price hit a bottom, some thought we never climbed. To the bear market, a brutal long time. We watched the value dwindle, watched the hope fade. But the core believers, the plans we already made. We staked our tokens, we played the long game. Through the pain and the doubt, we remain the same. The news has been grim, the futures look bleak, but the Hexagon spirit is on the take. But we're still standing, we ain't going away. Through the darkest night, we wait for the day. The bears are growling, but we hold the line. Explosion, ball set, listen to sign. The fools are sleeping, but they'll soon awake. But the communities are waiting for the fortunes they were made. A gavel will drop, a victory will see the case undone. Forget the set, a new dawn coming. The clouds will clear, the future's bright. The path is clear, the bears won't last. It's only a fade, the bull is coming. Through the coming days, the sacrifices made will soon be repaid. When the market turns and the price is relayed. So hold your bags, don't you dare sell low. The next leg up is about to go. We're still standing, we ain't going away. Through the darkest night, you wait for the day. The bears are growling, but we hold the line. Hex, pulse, chain, pulse, sex, destined to shine. The bulls are working, they're starting to thrive. For the community to wait, for the fortunes they will make. Yeah. Better believe.
SpaceCult magic. Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and really unravel the massive web of corporate greed, rebel spies, and space cult magic inside the Rings of Dust universe. If you think you already know how deep this rabbit hole goes, well, prepare to be surprised. We're going to break down the mechanics of absolute control and the desperate hidden systems built to fight back against it. We have to start with the central lie of the year 2033. Because honestly, understanding this universe means you have to realize that the global energy shortage, it isn't an accident. It's not just some natural depletion of resources. It is a carefully orchestrated holding pattern.
A scientist named Ray was actually the one who discovered this horrifying truth. He realized that Alpha Corp was intentionally destroying perfectly viable energy products to suppress the supply and build a shadow government. Alpha Corp didn't just stumble into a monopoly, they engineered the crisis from the ground up so they could be the only ones holding the cure.
So here is our roadmap for today. We're going to trace this all the way from the manufactured energy crisis through the actual mechanics of darker matter into Alpha Corp's shadow empire, the collective resistance, the asteroid colony, and finally, that massive ticking clock, the Saturn rapture event. All right, first up, the manufactured energy crisis, or essentially Alpha Corp's big lie. We have to look at the artificial energy gap that defines this entire world. Civilization is literally running on fumes, and the people in power want to keep it exactly that way. Just consider how the entire post-2020 era is framed here. Through a protocol known as Disposal Protocol 11, Alpha Corp deliberately destroys up to 13% of perfectly good product per batch. The shortage became structural entirely so that the solution could belong exclusively to Marcus Virgold's Alpha Corp. It's permanent management of humanity enforced through artificial scarcity. Which brings us to the mechanics of darker matter, the real science of these fuel cells. To truly control this energy, you have to understand the science of how they harness this mysterious, almost sentient substance that powers everything. So, the crucial point to get here is that stabilizing raw dark X into darker matter crystals was really only half the battle. Dark X on its own is incredibly volatile. It exerts this rapid, subtle psychological influence on absolutely anyone who gets near it. Alpha Corp figured out the conversion using salt, magnets, and liquid nitrogen, but it wasn't until Ray made a rather lazy accidental discovery with negative pressure that the true potential was unleashed. Take a look at how a standard 11-day round of a fuel cell operates. By carelessly shoving a sealed cell under negative pressure into his locker, Ray accidentally created a vapor vortex. Exactly 11 days later, the mist clears, new crystals form on the interior, and the cell is fully charged. But Alpha Corp was keeping massive secrets about what happens if you bypass this standard 11-day round and just leave the cells locked. 33 days. If you seal a cell and lock it down for 33 days, the interior crystal growth hits a staggering 10x multiplier rate. Alpha Corp kept this completely hidden from the public. But, the progression gets even crazier if you hold out longer. Let's jump to 180 days. At this milestone, you hit the 100x multiplier and unlock what is known as the superconductor yield. The grade essentially becomes a perpetual dual engine, constantly cycling external deposits every single 11-day round. This 180-day 100x superconductor yield progression literally transforms your energy from a mere trickle to an absolute stream. And what's brilliant about this is how it prepares the grid for the upcoming Season 3 FOMO curve flood. It perfectly balances the system, leaving meat on the bone for new participants while heavily rewarding the early loyalists with massive 5x and 25x multipliers. But remember the catch? Unlock it, and this stops instantly. You have to stay locked. Moving on to Alpha Corp's Shadow Empire, the puppeteers of the Federation. With these secret multipliers under their belt, Alpha Corp built an absolute empire, effectively capturing real government agencies. But they are far from the only players on the board. Three main factions are currently fighting for control of the universe, and each has entirely different motivations and public fronts. Alpha Corp uses the Federation to enforce its monopoly. The collective is dismissed by a lot of people as just harmless idealists, while they secretly build a massive resistance network. And the colony? Well, the outside world thinks they're just a strange religious cult operating out of a soap factory. The truth is far more complex. Let's look closer at the collective resistance, hiding right in plain sight. This is a distributed resistance network founded mostly by former infrastructure operators and ex-Alpha Corp employees who saw the monopoly forming and walked away with all the internal knowledge. They use a very specific holding-based rank structure based entirely on function, not seniority. And it's all represented by secret patches sewn into the linings of bags and jackets, where only the initiated know to look. An informant gets a water droplet, a technician gets a wrench, all the way up to the navigators with a compass who see the whole board. This holding-based rank system isn't just for secrecy. It's a structural meta-mechanism purposefully designed to 10x and eventually 100x scale the community by rewarding true participation rather than just time in the system. It's an entirely invisible hierarchy moving right under Alpha Corp's nose. And this is where the dramatic irony really hits hard. The most trusted public validator of Alpha's leader, Marcus, is secretly the Grand Admiral leading the rebellion against him. Because of a clinical insomnia condition, Rachel Vase lives two complete lives. While Marcus sleeps, Rachel works. She is the bronze star with the olive leaf wreath, running the entire underground network. Next, let's talk about the asteroid colony and the void sacrifice. Way out on the edges of space, far away from corporate espionage, lies the colony. To the Federation, it looks like a decommissioned soap factory operating out of an asteroid at the edge of a black hole. The number 369 is woven deeply through this lore. 369 test runs by the colony's founder, Elsa Klein. 369 victims on the Polaris explosion. And 369 original founders who set out into the void to build this colony, sacrificing literally everything without a return ticket. Honestly, it is a miracle they exist at all. The founding was brutal,
Only 11 survivors out of the original 369 lived through the cold and starvation to practice Elsa's rituals. But what they discovered in that asteroid fundamentally changed the balance of power in the entire universe. The Void Walkers take those fully locked compounding fuel cells and literally sacrifice them to the void. They walk down an east tunnel until gravity lets go, and they release them into the black hole. And the universe actually responds. Every 11 days, an enormous gold asteroid is returned. By sacrificing this energy, they secretly become the wealthiest faction in existence, silently funding the collective's resistance while Alpha Corp remains completely clueless to the financial chain. And all of this brings us to the Saturn Rapture event, the ticking clock. Everything we've discussed is on a direct collision course catalyzed by one massive cosmic event. It's the ultimate endgame that forces every single player to show their hand. On November 22nd, 2033, the gravitational closure of Saturn's rings, the Rapture, will cut off raw dark X forever, causing a violent convergence. Alpha Corp initiates a sabotage mission on the ship Golden Dawn to secure the very last supply of Dark X before the ring snaps shut. Meanwhile, the collective leaks the suppressed files on Earth, and the colony makes their ultimate sacrifice. The physical clock and the emotional clock run simultaneously as the rings draw inward, crushing anything left inside. As the pre-Rapture harvest ends and the secrets of the universe are laid bare, you really have to ask yourself, whose side are you truly on? The corporate monopoly of Alpha Corp? The underground resilience of the collective, or the void-worshipping wealth of the colony? The energy shortage is a choice, but the future doesn't have to be. So what choice will you make when the rings finally close? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.
Welcome back.
I'm talking AGP, anti-gravity project. I respect, staying true to the tech. We got the evil address and the pink Miss Will. Got the dark matter token going up, I can tell. Hey, I can tell this is start of something fresh. Shout out Hex Revision and Donna Hex, yes. I confess, Hexicans don't stress, cause as a community we one up. So tell me, are you in, or tell me, are you out? Do you want to win, or do you chase the clout? What is this really about? The treasury and lottery. If you meant dark tokens, you can get a part of it. So how does it work? Let me explain. First you buy the dark token, now you're in the game. Then you mint the dark and get a fuel cell. That's an NFT, one that earns yield. As long as you have it, it feels like magic. But if you vaporize the NFT, that's tragic. So most think crypto is a game. Are you here for the fame, or here to make a name? See, Hexicans reign, we create our own lane. I thought I told you, we the new financial gain. AGproject.io with the flow. And if you know what I know, then you know what I know. That's just how it go. Something like to support the team, the dream. Public service announcement, t.me/anti-gravity saga is the telegram. Tap in. It's for y'all. I'm talking AGP, anti-gravity project. I respect, staying true to the tech. We got the evil address and the pink Miss Will. Got the dark matter token going up, I can tell.
Today, we are jumping straight into the grid staking phase. We're going to break down the complex resource mechanics and the massive strategic decisions you're about to face. If you've been tracking the whole darker matter and fuel cell ecosystem, you already know that the initial sync phase is really just the warm-up. The actual game, the choices that are going to define your entire trajectory, happen right here during staking. So we're mapping out the exact math, the physical environments you'll be dealing with, and the pretty heavy trade-offs of the 3 distinct paths you can take.
But before we get into the long-term holds and the permanent sacrifices, we absolutely have to talk about the ultimate wildcard, the instant legend jackpot strategy. When a grid is first assembled, it generates this low resonance for the first 11 days. Essentially, it's building up energy and searching for a frequency. And on that final day, Day 11, there is a chance for a massive, completely non-recurring exterior darker matter crystal deposit to physically manifest right on the base of the cell casing. It is an immediate, staggering windfall. And here are the exact odds for that. On day 11 of the sync cycle, exactly 1 in 740 cells receives this jackpot deposit. The cell that gets it is completely random, and it never repeats on the same cell. But if you hit that 1 in 740 chance, your whole round completely changes. It's the random anomaly that absolutely everyone is holding their breath for when they spin up a new cell.
All right, so after that initial sync, we hit the strategic divergence, which opens up the 3 paths of a round. Let's kick things off with Path 1, Max and the Loyalists.
So, once day 11 comes and goes, the sync period stops, and the power is now entirely in your hands. You have to decide exactly how that energy is going to behave for the rest of the round. This first path, it's for the patient. It's for the people looking to push the laws of physics to their breaking point. Up at the collective's orbital station Libre, they use what's called the zero condition. You are locking a cell in zero gravity for a strict 180 days. The cell is sealed, the darker matter vapor keeps building layer upon layer, and there is absolutely no release valve. But here is the critical catch. If you get jittery, but the payoff for that patience is massive. Even one day early, all of those enhanced properties halt within hours. It instantly drops back to a baseline cycle. Your commitment here has to be absolute. But the payoff for that patience is massive. By completing that full 180-day lock-in zero gravity, the interior crystal growth completely shatters its normal plateau and hits a staggering 100x superconductor rate. Not 10 times, not 50 times, 100 times the baseline rate. And it gets better, because at that 180-day mark, all cells in a full grid start making continuous exterior deposits every single 11 days indefinitely. You are effectively building a perpetual dual engine of energy. Max actually confirmed this based on Elsa Klein's original test runs. Elsa literally ran 369 test runs to figure this out. What she found is that in microgravity, the growth plateau disappears entirely. Without gravity pulling the crystals down, they just grow outward in every single direction. No ceiling, no limits. It's a frankly staggering amount of power, but it's reserved exclusively for those willing to lock their cells away for half a year.
Now, if extreme patience isn't your thing, there is Path 2, Tyler Durden and the Voidwalkers.
If the Loyalists are all about compounding growth up in space, the Voidwalkers operate on this completely different, almost mystical economic principle down underground. This path is highly ritualistic. You literally have to carry your live fuel cells deep down the east tunnel of the asteroid colony, walking toward a black hole. You feel the gravity gradually let go of your boots, and when the cell physically lifts out of your hands, you just release it. You sacrifice it to the void. The cell isn't harvested, it isn't locked, it is simply gone.
But here's where it gets crazy. The void defies ordinary physics by sending returns back to the colony on a strict 11-day cycle. Tyler Durden figured out that the void doesn't just destroy, it exchanges. Every 11 days, without fail, sacrificing your cell generates a massive EDI yield. So you're making a permanent forfeiture of the fuel cell itself, trading it for a guaranteed, continuous return that has quite literally funded the most materially wealthy community in the universe.
And finally, for those who want nothing to do with waiting or voids, there is Path 3, the deplete option.
This is the path of immediate action. It's the gray market standard for when the collective needs resources right now, today, just to keep moving. But breaking a cell open comes with a hard physical cost. You instantly recover 90% of the darker matter into untracked black market cells, but exactly 10% is permanently vaporized into the atmosphere. The second you break that seal, that 10% escapes. It's just gone. Fun fact, AlphaCorp actually uses this exact physical metric to hide their own destroyed batches, calibrating their accounting to match this natural 10% depletion loss so no one notices.
So you have to weigh this out. You are trading the massive compounding yields of the Loyalists, and you're skipping the steady EDI yield of the Voidwalkers, entirely for immediate liquidity. It is the ultimate bird-in-the-hand strategy. You get 90% of the power right now, untracked and ready to use, but you eat a permanent penalty. You forfeit any future growth, you miss out on perpetual deposits, and you literally watch a tenth of your asset turn to mist. So you have to ask yourself, are you the patient type, or do you need that energy immediately?
That brings us right to the ultimate question, choosing your staking strategy.
We've laid out the grid's mechanics. You've got the full map of the board now. You know the timelines, you know the physical stakes, and you understand what happens to darker matter under zero gravity, near a black hole, or under the knife. With that elusive instant legend jackpot always looming as a possibility, and 3 completely distinct strategic futures laid out in front of you, the only thing left to decide is, which path will you choose for this round? Are you locking it down for 180 days to smash through that ceiling and hit the 100x superconductor rate? Are you walking down the east tunnel to sacrifice it to the void for that steady EDI yield? Or are you taking the 10% penalty to crack it open right now? The rules of physics are set, but the strategy is all yours. Choose wisely.
Welcome to this explainer. You know, the darker grid isn't just an awesome sci-fi story about a futuristic energy crisis.
Darker matter. Now build a bear for your teddy bear picnic. Building the bear to eat when the bull run ballistic. Will he get to a point? Yes, I'm Hex. Like Richard Hart's better Bitcoin. Industry of people sent for smart contract decoy. Multi-chain pulse real, no decoy. In my SpaceCult suit, holes like a B-boy. Anti-gravity project, check AGD's coin.
Darker matter.
Fuel cell sacrifice to the decoy. Portal type with extra arms, big boy, decoy. Hungry for potential gains we could make. Some of the brave game on 180 days stake. Or 33, learn the tokenomics promptly. No sleep, we are only countdown to launching. Stuff that jackpot pinata. I want the whole enchilada. We'll see mañana. Block data, sacrifice, mistake, claim. Wait, whichever ever way you play, I wish you great games. This down cycle brought many pains, but props to you if you ain't changed. You are worthy and deserving of charts earning, profit earning, grasp the wins that you're yearning. Start with learning, do not panic, sail in a hurry. The art of walking on a floor that's burning. More lava make the bull run faster. See through false hype and fake influencer chatter. Talking head drainer while they're dead if you let them. Truth weapon as a lesson, yeah, like Fight Club versus UFC. Don't talk about it, be about it. It's all about the AGP.
Shadowy corporations, and black hole asteroid colonies, it is an absolute masterclass in fixed supply, high-stakes tokenomics. Today, we're taking that deep lore and translating it straight into hard, smart contract mechanics. By the end of this, you're going to know exactly how to play the grid. So picture this. Your fuel cell has just finished its 11-day calibration, and it is finally live. You now face a critical, permanent decision on what to do next. In the lore, this 11-day window is called the thermal soak. It's basically the time a newly minted cell needs to find the grid's frequency. But in the code, it's a brilliant latency mechanic. It completely prevents flash loan exploits and forces every single participant to have real skin in the game for at least one full cycle. But once that cell wakes up and goes live, the protocol demands a choice. Once you're live, you're staring down 3 very distinct paths. You can lock for extreme multipliers, sacrifice for eternal stable yield, or just cash out with a tax. And these aren't just financial strategies. They represent entirely different philosophies. You've got your long game hoarders, your philosophical sacrificers, and your quick exit pragmatists. And the craziest part? Every choice made by one group mechanically impacts the others in this beautiful, closed, self-sustaining loop. All right, let's dive into Path 1, Max and the Loyalists. These guys play the ultimate long game. In the lore, there's a scientist named Elsa Klein who realized that in a standard planetary environment, darker matter crystal growth eventually hits a hard ceiling just because of gravity. But Max? He took this experiment up to Station Libre, a space station with zero gravity. When sealed under negative pressure up there, the crystals don't just grow, they multiply boundlessly in every single direction. Listen closely here, because this is absolutely crucial. By locking your fuel cell in zero gravity for 180 days, you achieve the superconductor state with a massive 100x multiplier. Now, I want to be incredibly clear about this. If you read the old white paper or light paper and saw a 55x multiplier mentioned, you literally must ignore it. That is an outdated spec. The code explicitly dictates that the 180-day lock creates a 100x superconductor. You commit yourself for 6 months and your treasury weight goes absolutely parabolic. And while you're serving out that 180-day lock, you're earning liquid DRK plus dividends every 11 days from the bonus pool, continually absorbing blood tithes from every other player who quits early. Since your cell is sitting in its final superconductor form, you don't just get that massive 100x treasury weight, you're getting a dedicated slice of the 180-day bonus pool. Whenever someone else breaks their cell open early or bails on their lock, their penalty flows directly into this pool. The weak hands literally pay the strong hands. Okay, let's shift gears and look at Path 2, Tyler Durden and the Voidwalkers. If the Loyalists are all about hoarding, the Voidwalkers are all about permanence and sacrifice. In the story, there's a colony stationed right on the edge of a black hole, and they practice this unique, almost religious ritual. They don't hoard their charged cells. Instead, they carry them deep down the east tunnel, feeling the gravity fade away, and they release their most valuable assets directly into the void. Translating that atmosphere into smart contract code, sacrificing your cell permanently to the void grants you an eternal, non-inflationary stream of wrapped DAI stablecoin yield. On-chain, this is known as the sacrifice vault. When you send your NFT here, it is permanently burned from your wallet. Poof, gone. But in return, the contract registers you for a permanent, lifetime slice of the stable pool. You completely stop earning the highly volatile native token, and you start earning eDAI, a real external stablecoin asset. And it gets better. The accrued DRKR you forfeit actually redistributes to the rest of your mint round bloodline, while trading bots get taxed 10% to perpetually fund your eDAI rewards. This right here is a masterclass in game theory. When you sacrifice, those accrued tokens don't just vanish. They're gifted to your bloodline, the players who minted in your exact same round. And that eDAI stablecoin? The protocol has a 10% sentry tax explicitly targeting arbitrage bots. The bots feed the pools, and the Voidwalkers just live off the bots forever. For those looking for a different route, there's Path 3, the deplete exit strategy. Look, we know not everyone wants a 6-month lock or a permanent sacrifice. Some players just want their energy right now. But breaking a cell open is a highly violent process. The split second that negative pressure seal is broken, 10% of your darker matter instantly vaporizes into the atmosphere. You can only ever recover 90% of what was inside. That vaporized 10% acts as a quitter tax, and mechanically, it flows straight into the pockets of the loyalists who chose that 180-day lock. Remember those pulse dividends we were just talking about in Path 1? Yeah, this is exactly where they come from. The smart contract captures that 10% penalty and routes it straight to the 180-day bonus pool. So the deplete path gives you instant liquidity, sure, but it forces you to leave value on the table, enriching the die-hard community members you leave behind. Finally, we reach the climax of the system, the instant legend play. Beyond the baseline economy we've covered, the grid has a highly volatile jackpot mechanic layered right on top. At the end of every 11-day round, a drawing occurs. Every 740 fuel cells minted funds one winner slot, with a payout ranging from a floor of 333 DRK all the way up to a capped 1,332 DRK. If you win, you can totally just claim it straight to your wallet. Or you can make the ultimate move. The true instant legend play is executing the claim to void function on a 1,332 mega jackpot, sacrificing the DRK to score maximum stable pool weight in a single legendary move. Instead of just taking the tokens, you redirect that massive 1,332 mega jackpot straight into the black hole. By doing this, you capture months and months worth of regular sacrifice weight with one single click. Your share of that permanent, bot-funded eDAI stablecoin yield becomes absolutely massive. And those tokens you forfeited, they actually stay in the pool, pushing the next round's jackpot closer to the cap. As you step into the darker grid and weigh these mechanics against each other, the choices are yours, and they are permanent. Will you ride that zero-gravity 100x superconductor multiplier? Will you live off eternal yield as a Voidwalker? Or will you hunt the 11-day rounds, waiting to execute the ultimate instant legend maneuver? The code is written, the lore is set. Which legacy will you choose? Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to this explainer on the anti-gravity project.
Nova is here, he's the leader of Alpha, leading the charge. Yeah. With his main man heavy, hit up right by his side at the raid. Together they fight, and drive their corridor, rich and valor, fighting for good. They refuse to back down in this war for justice. They wear the crown. Nova and heavy hitter, they rise from the dust. For the cause, they never back down. With big boy Leroy, his feet firmly underground. In the face of danger, they fight through it all. Champions of hope, they rise to the top. Through shadows of doubt, they light up the way. With power and purpose, they seize every day. Their enemy tremble in the dark. Nova and heavy hitter, our heroes embark in the big galaxy that's covered by night. They bring the fire and ammunition to ignite. For it's Alpha they serve, their honor was true. Nova and heavy hitter, they rise from the dust, fighting for the cause, they never back down. With big boy Leroy, his feet firmly on the ground. In the face of danger, they fight through it all. Champions of hope, they rise to the top. For every shadow, they bring the light. Nova and Alpha, defenders of the right.
By tuning in right now, you've made a real choice. You've decided to step out of the dark and actively push back against Alpha Corp's absolute stranglehold on our world. You are officially part of the resistance. And surviving the brutal economy they've built, well, that requires absolute precision and an exact understanding of how our decentralized energy grid actually operates. The fundamental truth of the Rings of Dust universe really boils down to this. Your fuel cell isn't just a token. It's a battery that needs to find the grid's frequency. Serve your time, and the grid provides. As a newly inducted collective member, this absolutely needs to be your daily mantra. Patience isn't just some virtue here. It's literally the mathematical core of your survival and our collective victory. To get you combat ready, here is exactly how we'll map out your step-by-step participation. First, we'll cover the Rings of Dust, then Darker Matter and Scarcity. Next, we hit Round N for assembly, Round N+1 for calibration, and Round N+2 for activation. Finally, we'll wrap up with the 100X superconductor. Section 1. The Rings of Dust and the Manufactured Energy Crisis of 2033. Look, the Darksader's energy shortage we're suffering through right now isn't an accident. Alpha Corp didn't just stumble into this crisis. No, they orchestrated it. They destroyed viable product, suppressed supply, and completely weaponized the shortage to build a shadow government. The gap is artificial, but man, the suffering is very real. This brings us to exactly who you are now. You are collective members. We are a distributed resistance network made up of scientists, volunteers, and defectors, all operating underground nodes. Our mission is singular: to build a totally decentralized energy grid outside of Alpha Corp's institutional control. We're essentially building the world we want right inside the world they corrupted. Section 2, Darker Matter and Scarcity, the Immutable Law of the Universe. The raw resource fueling our entire rebellion is DarkX plasma, which we convert into a stabilized, usable solid form known as darker matter, or DRKR. This is the lifeblood of our new economy. So, the crucial point is the absolute hard cap, 2,222,222 DRKR tokens. That is it. That's the ultimate limit of DRK that will ever exist on this grid. There is zero inflation possible here. No admin key can change it, and no corporate bailout can just magically print more. Every single action you take is working within this strictly finite ecosystem, meaning every piece of darker matter you secure is permanently valuable. To actually harness this power, you use a fuel cell, and the life cycle of every fuel cell is strictly measured in 11-day timeframes that we call rounds. It follows this very rigid three-phase timeline. First, you have round N, which is assembly. Then round N plus 1, which is calibration latency. And finally, round N plus 2, which is live activation. Let's break down exactly what you'll be doing in each phase. Section 3, round N, assembly. Your very first step on the grid. This is the moment you transition from a spectator into an active collective member. The mechanics here are pure and straightforward. Step 1, you expend exactly 1 DRKR token. Step 2, you mint your fuel cell. And step 3, you instantly join the bloodline of that specific minting round. Now, remember, during round N, your fuel cell is officially offline. It's just assembling its internal crystal structures, so it isn't combat ready or generating yield yet. It's simply taking form. Section 4, round N plus 1, calibration, otherwise known as surviving the thermal soak. This is a forced 11-day latency period. Why? Because the grid strictly requires skin in the game. This soak prevents flash mint gaming and makes sure every collective member is fully committed before they draw power. Let's move to and see how this builds across the different states. The progression across these phases is super clear. In round N, you're offline minting only. In round N plus 1, you're in the thermal soak, syncing to the grid with that 11-day latency. It's only when you finally cross into round N plus 2 that your cell becomes live, fully operational, and ready to be staked. But round N plus 1 isn't just about waiting around, it's also about the day 11 jackpot. At the end of the calibration round, exactly one cell in 740 receives a massive exterior darker matter deposit. The payout floor guarantees 333 DRKR, and that scales all the way up to a 1,332 DRKR cap depending on the pool. If you win, you have a massive choice to make: claim the liquid DRKR, or sacrifice it to the void to permanently stack the pool and earn incredible ongoing weight for the future. Section 5, round N plus 2, activation, powering the grid and choosing a path. Your 11-day sync has concluded. The radio static clears, the crystals have formed, and your fuel cell is officially live. Once live, you have 3 distinct paths, and every single choice you make fundamentally impacts the broader resistance network. You can be the loyalist, locking yourself for massive future yield. You can be the void walker, permanently sacrificing your cell to the black hole for external stablecoin yield. Or you can take the deplete path, cashing out your accrued DRKR immediately. Now, what's really fascinating here is the game theory. Collective members aren't adversaries. You are literally heirs to one another. If someone chooses to be a depleter and cash out, they leave behind a 10% quitter tax that flows straight directly to the loyalists. If they become a void walker and sacrifice, they earn EDI forever, sure, but they leave all their accrued DRKR and permanent ghost weight behind for their bloodline. Every single time a weak hand leaves the grid, the surviving collective members inherit their redistributed weight and become exponentially wealthier. It's a brilliant system. Section 6, the 100x superconductor, Elsa Klein's ultimate discovery. This right here is the most critical strategic advantage on the grid. This is the true science that AlphaCorp completely failed to comprehend because they were just too greedy to ever stop harvesting. It all comes down to Elsa Klein's final test, Run 369. She definitively proved the zero condition. When a fuel cell is left alone in a sealed, locked environment for exactly 180 days, the interior crystal growth plateau completely vanishes. The data is absolute on this. A 180-day lock creates a 100x superconductor, period. Honestly, you need to completely discard any old, corrupted white paper specs you might have heard about a 55x boost. Forget that. The true, verified science of the grid dictates that the 180-day lock explicitly unleashes a 100x multiplier. And this brilliantly illustrates the difference. Contrast the unlocked state, with its standard baseline crystal growth, against the 180-day locked state. In its final form, it achieves that massive 100x superconductor growth. And importantly, it triggers the grid to begin making continuous exterior crystal deposits every 11 days, indefinitely. By walking the loyalist path and committing to that 180-day lock, you effectively become the backbone of the resistance. Your treasury weight locks in at that staggering 100x multiplier. You receive liquid pulse dividends every 11 days straight from the bonus pool. And because you stayed while others inevitably left, you absorb the blood tithes of all depleted and sacrificed cells. The most patient collective members reap massive compounding yields. But time is not a luxury we have forever. The Saturn rupture is imminent. That massive gravitational event that will seal off the outer rings and close the raw dark X harvesting window for a generation, it is approaching fast. AlphaCorp is making their final play, and our grid must be fully powered to survive it. So the only question left for you is this: will you step up, lock your fuel cells, and become a superconductor before time runs out?
Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into something incredibly fascinating. We're looking at a sovereign on-chain economy built entirely on Pulse Chain, and it's called the Darker Grid.
From a creator on Pulse Chain, where the tokens remain. There's a token rising up, set to ignite a flame. Darker matter is its name, a gaming token set to set the crypto world alight. With its fuel cells, mint and power, your stack is deployed into the void. With NFTs gathering dust and the jackpot calls your name. And if you're a lucky winner, you can sacrifice to get free or die forever. I am telling you, it's insane. Act project, you'll get the keys to the game. Step into the darkness, nothing's ever gonna be the same. You've been chasing rainbows where there's no gold, but the real power's in darker matter. But the real power's in darker matter. You don't have enough darker matter. Level up your wallet and make it fatter. This game of tokens blazing on through. It's time to buy. Hold the vision, the key is in your hands. Darker matter. Dark matter. Treasure rewards getting higher. 33 or 80, you stake the claim. You don't have enough darker matter, so get in the game. The tokenomics are solid, built for the long haul. Deflationary forces on the inside. Play, man, earn, watch the SpaceCult grow. From the void of victory, let the whole chain know. No more empty plays in this crypto space. Darker matter's dropping bombs in your face. Pulse chain is the chain, darker matter is the game. So grab your darker matter, futures to be won. Others will fade away when the market gets cold, but this one's forged like gold and will never get old. You don't have enough darker matter. Level up your wallet, make it fatter. This gaming tokens blazing on through. It's time to buy, hold the vision, the keys in your hands. Darker matter, darker matter, darker matter, darker matter, darker matter. Darker matter. Darker matter. Darker matter. Treasure rewards getting higher. 33 or 80 days, your stake a claim. You don't have enough darker matter, so get in the game. Into the void we will go, minting our fuel cells, watching them grow. The treasury shares the win. To the darker matter holders, let the games begin. Darker matter.
Now, if you follow decentralized finance at all, you already know that creating a truly sustainable, closed-loop economy, well, it's basically the holy grail of protocol design. And honestly, the Darker Grid has engineered some structural blueprints here that are just paradigm shifting. We're going to break down exactly how this ecosystem operates, how it locks down its borders, and how it brilliantly aligns the incentives of every single person participating in it. But to really wrap our heads around what the Darker Grid is actually doing, we've got to start with a fundamental question. What exactly is a sovereign on-chain economy? And, why do we even need one? Well, look at traditional DeFi right now. It's facing a massive systemic problem. It is constantly bleeding value. You've got these automated trading bots and mercenary capital just swooping in, extracting yield through flash mint reward gaming, and completely draining liquidity pools before actual human participants even realize what hit them. It's incredibly frustrating, right? But the Darker Grid, it's an environment explicitly designed from the ground up to solve this exact problem. It's an ecosystem that actually fights back.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our structural blueprint for today's explainer. First, we'll look at the sovereign economy on Pulse Chain. Second, the DRKR, immutable hard cap. Third, fuel cells, units of participation. Fourth, the mandatory calibration phase. And finally, number 5, getting ready for the grid. Let's get to it. Section 1, Sovereign Economy on Pulse Chain, built to withstand the bots.
Okay, so let's take a macro view of this foundational network environment, because this isn't just a simple token contract we're talking about. It's practically a multi-layered defensive fortress deployed on Pulse Chain. When we stack up traditional DeFi against the Darker Grid, the architectural differences are literally stark. Traditional protocols are so often just ruined by mercenary bots. Think about arbitrage bots, right? They frequently route tokens directly between two pools as a completely toll-free pass-through. They dodge taxes entirely and siphon off value.
Well, the darker grid is engineered to drain those leeches. It enforces a flat 10% sentry tax that hits every single sale, and yes, that absolutely includes pool-to-pool arbitrage. So in this beautiful twist of irony, the bots are literally funding the rewards for the true stakeholders. The whole system is built to repel automated extraction and exclusively reward real, time-staked human participation.
Section 2. The DRKR Immutable Hard Cap, the protocol's native currency. 2,222,222. I want to boldly anchor this specific number in your mind because absolute scarcity is the gravitational center of this entire economy. This isn't just some vague target. It is a hard-coded maximum supply. And that brings us to a really critical definition. The DRKR token, that's spelled DRKR, has an immutable hard cap. This guaranteed maximum supply of exactly 2,222,222 tokens is enforced directly at the ERC20 smart contract level. There are no inflation schedules, no minting functions left open, and absolutely no admin keys that can ever inflate or alter it. What's really fascinating here is that during the protocol's V3 migration, they minted exactly up to this cap. So the supply, it's totally complete. From this point forward, thanks to a permissionless burn mechanism, the supply of DRQR can only shrink. It can literally never, ever increase.
Moving on to Section 3, Fuel Cells, Units of Participation, your ticket to the grid.
So if DRK is the electricity, the fuel cells are the hardware. The source documentation gives us this fantastic quote: "Your fuel cell isn't just a token, it's a battery that needs to find the grid's frequency." And this brilliantly illustrates the core mechanic of the protocol. These fuel cells are the literal batteries powering every single yield mechanic on the grid. You simply cannot access the treasury, the jackpots, or the bonus pools without one. They are your exclusive unit of participation. Now, the rules for these fuel cells are incredibly strict and highly intentional. They're ERC 721 NFTs, and they are minted exclusively with DRKR. The mint price is immutable too. It's exactly 1 DRKR per cell. No bonding curves, no dynamic pricing. To stop whales from just sweeping in and dominating in a single transaction, there's a hard per-transaction cap of 200 cells. But here's where the game theory gets really brilliant. Guardian status. If your wallet holds 10 or more fuel cells, the smart contract recognizes you as a true community member and grants you a 100% exemption from that 10% sentry tax we talked about earlier. The contract just reads your on-chain balance, and if you hit that threshold, boom, you trade completely tax-free. The bots pay the toll, while the real stakeholders move unhindered.
Section 4. The Mandatory Calibration Phase, the Rite of Passage.
You see, you can't just mint a fuel cell and immediately start draining the treasury. No way. There is a critical anti-gaming latency period that every newly minted cell has to endure. The protocol runs on strict 11-day rounds. Let's walk chronologically through the precise 3-round initiation process every new fuel cell goes through. Step 1 is assembly, which happens in round N. You mint your cell and it joins your bloodline. That's the cohort of everyone who minted in that exact same round. During this round, the cell is entirely offline. Step 2 is calibration, happening in round N+1. This is an 11-day period where your cell actually syncs with the grid. And finally, step 3 is activation in round N+2. Only now is your cell live and combat ready for staking. That step 2 calibration period, it's officially called the thermal soak. So the crucial point is this: this latency is a feature, not a bug. In traditional DeFi, an attacker can just flash mint a token, claim a massive reward, and dump the whole bag in the exact same block. Well, the thermal soak completely neutralizes that vector. It prevents immediate staking or claiming to stop flash mint reward gaming dead in its tracks. It essentially forces every single player to have real skin in the game, enduring 11 full days of price exposure and latency before their battery can output any power whatsoever. To summarize the functional life cycle of a fuel cell, we can map out these 3 distinct states of existence. First up, offline. You just minted it, it's calibrating, and it absolutely cannot be staked or claimed. Next, it becomes live. Calibration is complete, and it begins pulling regular rewards every 11 days. And finally, if you choose to lock it up for a full 180 days, it reaches its final form, which is supercharged. In this state, it receives separate pulse dividends from an exclusive bonus pool on top of the regular yield.
Section 5. Ready for the grid. Plugging in.
Okay, so we've survived the thermal soak, we've completely bypassed the bots, and our fuel cell is fully calibrated. The moment your fuel cell is live, the grid goes to work for you. It starts paying you out in 2 distinct assets. The first is more of that native, absolutely scarce DRKR token. The second is eDAI, which is Pulse Chain's wrapped DAI stablecoin.
That means the protocol is generating real external asset yield for its participants, funded directly by the taxes levied on those trading bots and early exiters. This opens up some super complex strategies like the loyalist and voidwalker paths, which we are absolutely going to have to explore in our next explainer. Which really leaves us with this final thought. You've got a token with an immutable hard cap that can only ever shrink. You have a participation asset that forces everyone to endure a mandatory waiting period. When absolute scarcity meets mandatory patience, the game theory changes completely. So if you manage to secure a spot on the grid, the only question left is, how long will you keep your cell plugged in? Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into the darker grid. Keep learning, stay curious, and I'll catch you in the next explainer. Hey everyone.
Pops up, the neon starts to glow. Lowercase connection, entering the show. Top right corner where the wallet interacts. Digital contract, tracking down the facts. The ticker symbols blinking on the sidebar screen. The dark is the atmosphere setting the scene. Round one is coming, the season's on the clock. Secure the network, time to lock it in the block. Welcome to the darker matter. Standard rules apply. Load the fuel cells up before the timer passes by. Into the void we will go, where the smart ones play. Minting out the future, trade into the shadows. Watch the ticker climb. Feel the data stream. Living on the edge of the cyber grid machine.
Sacrifices, waiting at the gate, calculating yields while we wait upon the day. Claim the EDOT payouts, tally up the wins. This is where the high stakes strategy begins. They say it's for the smart ones, written on the wall. A gamified ecosystem standing tall. Read the how to play if you wanna know the way. Before you launch the app or end in disarray. Ticks on the countdown, now it's done to days. The price of darker matter, moving through the haze. Is it an illusion? Is it by design? Watch the smart contract as it aligns. 3, 2, 1. Let the protocol run. Welcome to the darker matter. Standard rules apply. Load the fuel cells up before the timer passes by. Into the void, here we go, where the smart ones play. Minting out the future, trade into the shadows. Watch the ticker climb. Feel the data stream. Living on the edge of the cyber grid machine. Cells loaded, void is open. Connect the wallet and fade into the dark.
Welcome back to The Explainer. Okay, let's just jump right in today because we are tackling arguably the biggest strategic dilemma you're going to face out there in the Rings of Dust universe. We're talking about the incredible compounding power of the grid, and more importantly, how you actually secure your gains without completely sabotaging your own setup. Because let's be real, managing those fuel cells and the darker matter locked inside them is a massive high-wire act. You obviously want to take profit, but if you do it the wrong way, bam, you break that beautiful compounding flywheel you've been working so hard to build. So today we're going to dig into how the smartest players in the ecosystem are taking their profit, maximizing their wealth, and keeping those engines running hot.
Okay, let's dive into this. The absolute heartbeat of this ecosystem is the 11-day round. And remember, it's always an 11-day round. Never call it a cohort. That's just not how this works. Basically, when darker matter crystals get sealed inside a fuel cell under negative pressure, they turn into this vapor vortex that charges up the cell over exactly 11 days. And right on day 11, the mist clears, brand new crystals form, and the whole cycle is complete. That round is the fundamental rhythm generating energy on the grid. But honestly, knowing that rhythm is really only half the battle. Figuring out what not to do when that 11-day round ends is where the actual strategy kicks in. So here is the big trap that so many explorers fall right into: depletion. Literally, depletion just means breaking open a fuel cell so you can physically harvest the darker matter crystals inside of it. It's totally brute force. It's basically AlphaCorp's favorite destructive way of harvesting. You're physically breaking the vacuum seal to get that energy out. And sure, it might feel like you're taking profit in the moment, but you are literally halting your compounding flywheel dead in its tracks. You're destroying the pressure cooker that's doing all the heavy lifting for you. AlphaCorp might be fine writing that off as the cost of doing business, but as an independent explorer, it's a penalty you absolutely do not want to accept.
Because that penalty is a staggering 10%. Think of it like a permanent, unavoidable gas tax. The exact microsecond you crack that seal, 10% of the darker matter inside just instantly vaporizes into the atmosphere. Poof, gone forever. You are only ever getting 90% of what you actually built up inside that cell. And there's literally no way around this atmospheric vaporization. It's just a hard physical law of extraction. AlphaCorp's spreadsheets might be able to absorb that kind of waste, but for us, giving up 10% of your accumulated wealth every single time you want some liquidity is a mathematical death sentence for a compounding gray.
Which begs the million-dollar question, right? How do you actually take profit without breaking the grid's flywheel? How do you get liquidity out of your assets without triggering that brutal 10% vaporization tax and without completely resetting your engine? Well, to figure that out, we have to look at how the collective handles things. The resistance network didn't survive out there by just throwing away 10% of their energy. And honestly, neither should we. And here is the insider secret straight from the collective's data. You just unstake and sell the intact NFT. I know, it sounds almost too simple, but the mechanics behind this are actually genius. You see, these fuel cells aren't just empty buckets. They have an intrinsic cash value that is directly based on the accumulated darker matter cryptocurrency safely sealed inside of them. Because that interior darker matter has real-world value, the fuel cell NFT itself holds that exact corresponding value on the open market. So instead of breaking the cell open, extracting the crystals, and eating that penalty, you just sell the container with the crystals still safely pressurized inside. And this brilliantly illustrates the difference. On one side, you've got depleting. You harvest, you break the seal, the vapor escapes, and boom, you instantly lose 10% and your asset is gutted. But on the other side, unstaking and selling intact. By leaving the NFT sealed, you entirely bypass that atmospheric loss. The darker matter vapor stays perfectly contained in the vacuum. You get your profit by selling the NFT to a buyer who wants the intact value of that cell, and you walk away with zero vaporization penalty. It is such a clever workaround. But we do have to talk about what happens to the cell the moment you do this. Because the lore is super strict about this. It states, quote, "Unlock a cell at any point and all enhanced properties stop within hours. The accumulated advantage is gone," end quote. The second you unstake that NFT to put it on the market, you are officially unlocking it. And the immediate result of that is the cell's lock timer completely stops, and those massive enhanced growth rates come to a screeching halt. The cell drops right back to its baseline 11-day cycle, and all the momentum of that lock is just frozen. Now, for a lot of people, this sounds terrifying. They hear that and think the cell is totally ruined. But honestly, this is the single biggest misunderstanding in the entire ecosystem.
So the crucial point is, the sold fuel cell is not completely reset. This is a critical override to how most people assume the system works. When you unstake and sell the intact NFT, it transfers to the new owner perfectly whole. All of that accumulated darker matter cryptocurrency, it remains completely locked inside the cell. The actual accrued value doesn't vanish. It transfers directly over to the new buyer. Literally, the only thing that actually stops is the lock timer itself. The engine gets turned off, sure, but the fuel tank is still absolutely full, and that creates a wildly lucrative setup for the person buying it. Because they're inheriting all of that intact, pressurized value, the new owner's only real job is just restarting the perpetual engine. They just bought a fully loaded, high-value fuel cell. To get that compounding flywheel spinning again and re-trigger those insane growth rates, all they have to do is initiate a new lock mechanic. They just choose to leave the cell alone and lock it back up. It's this beautiful, frictionless handoff. You get your profit minus the 10% tax, and they get a loaded cell ready to fire up. And the choices they have for restarting it, well, those go right back to the foundational science of the grid.
It's actually amazing how all of this traces back to Elsa Klein, the scientist who founded the colony. Her original notebooks, specifically those famous 369 test runs, laid out the exact blueprint for the lock mechanics we use today. She proved that if you just leave a sealed fuel cell alone, the crystals don't just sit there, they multiply at exponential rates. She mapped out the exact milestones where this growth basically breaks normal physics. So when a new owner restarts their inherited fuel cell, they are walking right in Elsa Klein's footsteps, making a distinct choice based entirely on her early predictions.
And that choice is strictly binary, a 33-day lock or a 180-day lock. That's it. If the new owner locks it up for 33 days, the interior crystal growth gets a massive 10x boost over the baseline rate. It's a great setup, but if they commit to the true long hold and lock it for 180 days, that triggers the superconductor effect. At 180 days, the interior growth explodes to an unbelievable 100x the baseline rate. It is an entirely different magnitude of compounding power.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is just seeing the sheer scale of those numbers visually. Look at bar 1. That's your baseline, 1x growth on a standard 11-day round. It works, sure. But then you hit bar 2, the 33-day lock. Bam, 10x boost. You are suddenly generating some serious yield inside that cell. But then you look at bar 3, the 180-day lock, 100x, the superconductor. I mean, the chart basically breaks trying to show it. It just proves that patience out here on the grid is a massive economic weapon. And actually, locking for 180 days does something even crazier than just boosting the inside of the cell.
Yeah, so hitting 180 days doesn't just give you that 100x interior superconductor boost. If you hold a full grid to 180 days, it triggers continuous exterior crystal deposits every single 11-day round. It turns your entire setup into a 180-day full grid perpetual engine. So you're getting 100x compounding growth on the inside, perfectly paired with relentless automated exterior yield indefinitely. Honestly, it is the absolute endgame of this entire economy.
So what you should really take away from this is a pretty stark choice about your own strategy. Are you going to fall for that 10% depletion trap, cracking seals and letting your hard-earned wealth just vaporize into the air? Or are you going to use the collective strategy, unstake and sell those NFTs perfectly intact, and actually master the grid's flywheel? The mechanics are all right there. The 11-day rounds, the intact transfers, those massive 33-day and 180-day superconductor locks, they're just tools waiting for you to use them. How you take your profit is entirely up to you. Just remember, the math out here is unforgiving, but if you master it, the rewards are literally perpetual. Thanks so much for hanging out with me on The Explainer today, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we're stepping right into the deep, incredibly rich lore and the complex, high-stakes tokenomics of the anti-gravity universe. We're going to unpack the staking phase on the grid. Think of it as the ultimate strategic crossroads, where literally every decision you make shapes not just your yield, but your actual alignment in this massive universal power struggle between Alpha Corp, the collective, and that enigmatic asteroid colony. So get ready, because what you're about to learn is going to completely change how you look at digital scarcity and strategy.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our menu of strategic options during staking. We've got 1. The baseline round. 2. Path 1,
Max and the Loyalists. 3. Path 2, Tyler and the Voidwalkers. 4. Path 3, Deplete. And finally, 5. The Wildcard, Instant Legend Jackpot. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the baseline round. So I want you to picture this. Put yourself directly in the story for a second. You're standing there and you're holding a fully charged fuel cell right in your hands. It's glowing, it's just alive with darker matter energy. What is your next move? Now, you know this isn't just some hypothetical question. On the grid, this is the absolute critical decision point that dictates your entire trajectory. Everything, and I mean everything, stems from this single moment of agency. So, how does this thing actually work? Well, it's kind of a crazy story. A scientist named Max Vision, aka Ray, literally stumbled onto this by complete accident. He took some raw darker matter crystals, sealed them inside a spare fuel cell under negative pressure, basically just to store them in his locker over the weekend. But he discovered something mind blowing. The crystals didn't just sit there, they actually changed state into the slow vapor vortex. For 11 days, that vortex charges the cell, and then on day 11, the mist clears, and brand new crystals have formed right on the interior. This exact 11-day cycle is what we call a round. And this round, it's the heartbeat of the grid. Every 11 days, the cycle just completes itself. Moving right along to Section 2, Path 1, Max and the Loyalists. Now, if you decide to lock your fuel cell, meaning it's totally inaccessible to harvest, you have a massive choice in front of you. You've got option A, a 33-day lock, or option B, a 180-day lock. And let me be absolutely 100% clear about this. These are two entirely distinct, independent, and non-sequential choices. You do not do the 33-day lock as a stepping stone to somehow get to the 180-day lock. It's a strict either-or decision right from the jump. You are choosing one strategic path or the other from day zero. So say you go with that first distinct option, the 33-day lock. Here's what goes down inside that sealed environment when there's no release valve. The interior crystal growth of your fuel cell just accelerates dramatically, hitting 10 times the baseline rate. It's this incredibly powerful planetary-level yield enhancement for anyone willing to commit their cells for exactly 33 days. You just let the vapor build and build until you secure that massive 10x multiplier on the interior growth. But what if you make the other distinct choice, that 180-day lock? Well, Max Vision actually took Elsa Klein's 369 test runs entirely off-planet. He brought them into the zero-gravity environment of the collective space station, Station Libre. And up there, Max discovered what Elsa had called the zero condition. In microgravity, that normal growth plateau that limits the crystals, it disappears completely. The crystals just grow outward in every single direction with literally no ceiling. And the results of that zero condition are honestly staggering. If you choose the distinct 180-day lock, your interior crystal growth doesn't just stop at 10x, it explodes into a massive 100x superconductor boost. But wait, it gets better. Locking for 180 days actually triggers a full grid mechanic. Every single cell in a full grid starts making continuous exterior deposits on a perpetual 11-day cycle. You're essentially turning the grid into this perpetual dual engine of massive interior growth and endless exterior cycling. Okay, let's shift gears to Section 3, Path 2, Tyler and the Voidwalkers. Now, what's really interesting about this idea is how it beautifully bridges hard science and pure faith. Elsa Klein mapped out the astrophysics of dark matter gravity differentials, right? But Tyler Durden took that exact same science and mapped it to a belief system built entirely on sacrifice. To Tyler, throwing away a highly valuable fuel cell isn't a waste at all. It's considered an ancestral return. It's this deeply personal, almost spiritual act of giving back to the void. So, if you go down this path, you are choosing to walk the east tunnel of the asteroid. You carry your live, fully charged fuel cell deeper and deeper into the rock. And as you walk, the gravity from the nearby black hole gradually just takes over. Things start to float, you don't even have to push the cell, you just carry it until gravity physically lifts it right out of your hands, and you surrender it to the black hole, and then it's gone. You just turn around, walk back, and await the 11-day return. Now, you might be wondering, why on earth do they do this? Well, because exactly 11 days after chucking a battery into a black hole, the void actually gives back. The black hole literally redirects massive gold asteroids straight to the colony. I know it's totally illogical, it defies physics, but it is an eternal reward. By simply letting go of their most precious energy sources, this quiet, unassuming colony of voidwalkers has secretly become the wealthiest community in existence. And they use all that gold to quietly fund the resistance.
All right, bringing us to section 4, path 3, deplete. Let's look at the raw, unavoidable math of the deplete path for a second. Alpha Corp meticulously tracks their fuel cells, right? But the collective desperately needs untracked energy. To get it, they have to physically break open an Alpha Corp track cell. But the second that seal breaks, there is a permanent cost. Exactly 10% of those darker matter crystals instantly vaporize and just escape into the atmosphere. Poof, they are gone forever. You only successfully recover 90% of the darker matter. So, why in the world would you choose a path where you're guaranteed to lose 10% of your assets? Simple, untraceable black market freedom. The collective willingly accepts this 10% vaporization tax because it lets them transfer that remaining 90% of energy into their own, untracked, entirely off the grid fuel cells. This is exactly how they fight back against Alpha Corp's monopoly. It is a very calculated cost, paid up front for the sake of true, untethered independence.
And finally, Section 5, the wild card, instant legend jackpot.
So during every single 11-day round, while your fuel cell is just humming along in sync, on day 11, the universe basically rolls the dice. Exactly 1 in 740 cells will receive this massive, one-time exterior crystal deposit right on the base of the casing. Keep in mind, this is totally separate from the normal interior growth. It is singular, it is non-recurring, and the odds are exactly 1 in 740.
So, the absolute crucial point here is this: hitting the Stay 11 jackpot. It completely flips your strategy on the grid. It's what the community lovingly calls the instant legend strategy. Whether you were initially planning to lock for 33 days, maybe go for the 180-day superconductor, sacrifice to the void, or just deplete for the black market, suddenly finding yourself holding that jackpot cell just changes all your math. It changes all your leverage in the anti-gravity universe.
Well, we've covered the underlying science, the deep lore, and the pure mechanics of the grid. You know now that the 33-day and 180-day locks are completely distinct, non-sequential paths. You know the upfront cost of depletion, and you know the crazy rewards of the void. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought as you gear up to enter the grid yourself. Are you going to chase that 100x superconductor at Station Libre? Are you going to surrender to the black hole for those eternal void returns? Or will you accept a 10% loss for pure, untraceable freedom? The 11-day round is ticking. Which will you choose?